Welcome. This week we're going to go over lessons 69 to 72. I hope last week's activities helped those of you whose children may not have quite got to the facts of 10 the previous week. Lots of activities working on facts of 10. Hopefully it gave your children more confidence. It reassured you. And don't worry, they'll still have more practice. This week, though, we have an activity, actually 2 days, that's kind of a fun little break. But before we get started, let's go see what materials will be needed for this week. So these first few materials are going to give you a huge clue of what you're going to be doing this week. You're going to need the appendix, page 13, which is the numbers and the months for the calendar. If you have a calendar, a 12-month calendar with pictures of the seasons, that would be awesome. If you don't, any 12-page calendar will work. You'll need scissors and crayons. And then again, these are optional. These are some books that are recommended in the lesson. As you can see, not only are you working with the calendars, you're going to be kind of going over the seasons. And then you'll need appendix page 14, your abacus, the abacus tiles, the worksheets, and the math card game book, along with the basic number deck. Oh yeah, and your place value cards. Lesson 69, calendar day 1. This is an enrichment lesson. And the next lesson is an enrichment lesson. And as we've talked about before, because in lesson 50, that was an enrichment when you went outside and did the ellipse in the sand. This is optional. However, I highly, highly, highly encourage you guys to do it. Because my main reason is, one, children love learning about the calendar. And two, it gives a nice little break from the computation. Gives that brain some time, those little brains time to just kind of take in what they've been learning as far as, all the numbers and ways to make 10. And it gives it time to settle in. And at the same time, they're doing something fun, but it's not all that computation. You'll need this appendix page out of your appendix package. It is got the months as well as all the numbers for the days of the month. This is something that your child's going to cut out. So as I've said before, if you aren't comfortable with their cutting, make some copies. Anyway, you're not going to be gluing these numbers. So you want to make sure if you do make copies to put it on the cardstock or something firm. You're going to be using these numbers a lot and moving them around as your children make each month of the calendar. Now, the object of this lesson is we're going to explore the calendar, and they're going to learn more about ordinal numbers, numbers that come in order. So when we put our months, the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, that is what ordinal numbers are. You want to examine the calendar, and that's where the 12-month flip-top calendar comes in handy. I know you can pick some up at the dollar store. If it happens to have the seasons, that's even better, but if it doesn't have the seasons, that's okay. Just flip through it and talk about things with your child. If there are seasonal pictures, talk about the seasonal pictures. Maybe make note of when people's birthdays are. I don't know, do what you want to do. Just let them enjoy looking through this calendar. Let them ask questions. And then you'll ask some questions as you go through the months of the calendar, because that's one of the things we want them to learn is the months of the year. Look on the second page at the bottom for the explanations for the teachers, and make sure your child understands how the numbers work on the calendar. Lesson 70, calendar day 2. Again, this is an enrichment lesson, but it's a continuation of the previous lesson. This is where it's optional. If you have any books of the season, you can include those here. Those are something you could find at a library, or maybe you have some on your bookshelf. If not, it's optional. You don't have to do that. But if you have them, use them. In this lesson, you'll also be using this appendix page out of the appendix packet or again out of the back of the book, and your child's going to start making the months of the year. So on here, they're going to find January. They're going to put the numbers on here, but now they're going to be laid flat because they're going to use the numbers they cut out and arrange them on the grid to match how they're supposed to go. Then you're going to give them another one of these copies because there's like 12 of these in your appendix page. And then your child's going to write the numbers in the correct squares on the grid. Don't have them glue those numbers down. Those numbers are going to have to be used for each month of the year. Now they can glue the month down, but not the numbers. And also there's a little space at the top if they want to decorate. Help them maybe with something special for each of these months, and then they can decorate it how they want. Or maybe you guys can print out some pictures. I don't know. The sky's the limit on the creativity there. The other thing also, they will be making the complete calendar, but not all in one day. All right. Take time through these next couple days, next couple weeks, and then they can work on different months until they get it fully completed. And notice what it says on the second page at the bottom for the teacher, that you could consider this as a gift. I know kids like making gifts, and it could be a gift to the whole family. So as they're making the calendar, you can make note of different birthdays or special events, just whatever your child thinks about or thinks of that's important to him or her and you. Lesson 71, working with hundreds. In this lesson, we introduce hundreds to the child. You'll be using those abacus tiles for this. It's important for your child to really understand the hundreds, because working in the hundreds is what's going to give your child a better understanding on the decimal system. And again, kids, they just love those big numbers. Look at the top of the second page and notice how they arrange the abacus tiles. They do these in groups of 2. It just lines up with how they did the dot cards, what are even, what are odd. It helps to make the quantity recognizable without counting. This arrangement is also similar for when they start working on the second side of the abacus. The game is go to the dump, so you get more time to get to practice working on those facts of 10. Last lesson for the week, lesson 72, recording hundreds. Notice at the top of the second page when we're working with the number 100, and it wants you to specify 100. It's a little awkward saying it that way, but we want children to recognize that when you're talking about hundreds, how many places come after the number? There's 2 zeros. And it's important for children to realize and recognize that. As you see in the explanations, it gives you some reasons why. So example, right here, now we know this is 1,900, but it's also important to recognize it as 1900s. And then if you really understand number sense, you're going to see it as 190 tens. So when you understand this, when you understand place value, it brings so much understanding to these numbers. Also helps in the future when you get into scientific notation, if they can recognize how many zeros come at the end. Again, it works with 2 and then 2 tens and then 200. And again, 200. You may even want to ask your child how many tens are in here. They may not know, but they may know. How many tens? Well, there's 20 tens. The game in this lesson is the handshaking game. It's A3.1. Now, this is really meant for a group of kids. Say you have 10 kids. Now, some of you have a large family, you can do this. We have a large family. But even though we have a large family, I still couldn't come up with 10. There's 6 kids and 2 adults. So the most we could have done was 8. One of the things you could do if you don't have a group of people is to get stuffed animals or dolls or something, if you have a boy, maybe they have dinosaurs or something, or even cars. I don't know. Pick out something that there's 10 of. And then you'll have to adapt the game for that. But if you can, I think the best thing to do is get as many people as you can in your own family and then bring in additional, stuffed animals or some other objects to do this with. We did it. We completed another week. I hope that you guys have fun doing the enrichment lessons, working on the calendar. I think that's going to be a nice little break just with everything else that your children have been learning. And if they want to show off their calendars, remember you can email it to us or send a picture of it to us at Debbie@rightstartmath.com or at info@rightstartmath.com. Be sure to include your child's name and, well, that's optional because not everybody wants to include their name. But give us permission if it's okay to post. If not, it'll just be for our personal enjoyment to see what your child did, how creative they are. Join me next week as we go over lessons 73 through 76. And by the way, we're in the 70s. That's halfway. Until then.